very good morning, and we welcome you back to another episode of Power Talk. And today I'm really blessed to have one of the in-house journalists who is going to unpack matters concerning politics and weigh in your comments and everything. We got you covered at this show. Welcome. Welcome our guest.
Pleasure being
Yes.
here.
First of all, you can introduce yourself to our viewers. Yeah.
I am Richard Mwenja, a jack of many trades, but prime of it, or where I excel the most, at least is in communications as a journalist.
Sure.
But I run other trades, more particularly as an economist.
This is amazing. As you can see today, we are having an economist in the house. And to move on now with this, we are in a country whereby I've seen something is cooking. And here in Power Talk, we are listening. Trending today is a 1.2 billion church in State House. Do you mean that? How do you take that one, first of all?
Absurd. One word for it, absurd.
Absurd.
If you're going to talk about it from an economic standpoint, then you need to break down the kind of impact 1.2 billion can have in a nation. Not just when it comes to recurrent develop expenditure, but also development expenditure.
Yeah.
In the sense that our teachers, JSS teachers, junior secondary school teachers, have always decried of delayed salaries, right?
Yeah.
Now, that is recurrent expenditure. It loosely translates to money you pay people so that they can continue offering their services. Talk of salaries, whatever kind of remuneration that is. So already we're having a crisis when it comes to recurrent expenditure. So 1.2 billion is money far beyond what the JSS interns were asking for at the onset point of the internship program, let alone the employment. You know, there was an internship for 6 months.
Yeah.
So if you look at the budget that was facilitated their salaries, it wasn't surpassing 1.2 billion.
Yeah.
You get it? All right, bring it home. We're talking about universal health coverage workers who are being paid stipend, not really robust kind of salary packages. So this is still money that could have made much impact if you're just going to look at UHC workers in Moist Bridge, where I come from, or from a certain ward. It's far much beyond what's expected to cover budget of a constituency. So it can even do for 3 counties. Now, leave alone recurrent expenditure. Let's talk about development expenditure. Bandit-stricken areas, schools without electricity, schools without piped water, schools without sanitation services. And remember, we are only 5 years away from Vision 2030.
Yeah.
We anchored one of our visions on access to proper hygiene services, right, and sanitation. So how are you going to meet that vision within the next 5 years if you're not really ready to start with the low-hanging fruits, which is address basic issues which do not really need a huge budget? 1.2 billion is enough to renovate all sanitation utilities for people in Baringo County alone. I'm talking about clean toilets, modern changing rooms for our children, modern bay areas for those living with disabilities.
Yeah.
I'm talking about getting electricity, last mile connectivity to every school in Baringo County, because it's government that is offering these services when it comes to electricity, water provision. So it can use its power to give incentives when it comes to now taking these utilities there. So I, as a private citizen doing my private venture, might need 4 billion to actualize such if I have investments in Baringo County. But because it's government and it's running its programs, it becomes easy for it to enjoy its own incentives. So for me, when I talk about 1.2 billion going to a church, it's the hate of hypocrisy, the hate of absurdity. It speaks to a regime that is big on misplaced priorities. There's something we call Maslow's of hierarchy, which essentially talks about you cannot...
The needs.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Thank you for the correction. You cannot talk about Michelle connecting a road, bitumen road, to Michelle's home when Michelle can barely afford a meal for the day. Misplaced priorities. Both are good priorities that government should venture into. But which one comes first? You need to have that hierarchy of needs that you need to satisfy first. So if a government is not discerning of such realities, then it means that is a government that's not in touch with the reality of the people. Or it speaks to a different elite group, not the group it spoke to when it wanted power. This group of Kenya Kwanza spoke to those at the lowest strata of the social pyramid. So it's the need that comes first. Don't talk about Mau Mau Road and over 20 billion worth of investment. Yet people who will live along that Mau Mau Road can barely afford sanitary towels for their daughters. Okay? So it speaks to confusion, misplaced priorities, hypocrisy in the sense that you claim to be a Christian, a God-chosen president, right?
Yeah.
The Bible hates it when your own family cries because of you. And it still talks about charity beginning at home. And even God does not rejoice when you're not there for your brothers, but you find yourself wanting to be in the good graces of strangers. These brothers are the hustlers who voted for you, stood with you through thick and thin, and elected you the president.
Yeah.
You cannot leave them and speak to the pockets of fellow billionaires. So that's hypocrisy. So stop claiming that you are God-chosen president. You are not a theocrat. A theocrat is a country that pays allegiance to a supreme being. Talk of India. You're talking about Narendra Modi, right?
Yeah.
Or even the Aga Khan, a spiritual leader who is translated into a leader of the people and chosen and sanctioned by God. Kenya, we talk of our leader within the corridors of democracy by the power of the vote.
Yeah.
And there is no correlation between religion and leadership here in Kenya. So don't turn Kenya into a theocrat. We are not one.
Okay, nice one. And talk to me about the issue. You have really elaborated matters concerning that mismanagement of funds. 1.2 billion is something, is the money is too much for like the JSS teachers. And now we are having some, today, as we are speaking today, the president has hosted readers from Cecilia Mbarire's place at the State House today. So how do you think this hosting is going to affect positively to the people of the Cecilia Mbarire's place?
It is pretense and political deceit in the sense that the Constitution does not enshrine development to be domiciled at State House.
Yeah.
It enshrines development to be devolved. That is the spirit of the 2020 Constitution. That means development meets you at the grassroots level.
Yeah.
It doesn't meet you at the national level standpoint. That's why there are two organs of the state in this case: devolved unit of government and national
government.
And still the national level of government complements the efforts of the devolved units of government, but key development and utmost priority is given at the devolved unit. By the Constitution, it's not a favor.
Yeah.
So when you say you come into State House for development, it's the hate of political conmanship. And to make it even more closer, so does it mean when I'm at odds with you, my people cannot enjoy development? Does KRA sideline you that Richard Monja taxes don't want it because he never voted for President Ruto, and so even we're going to create impact in areas beyond his home? No. It cuts across. It cuts across. So you are punishing one region, not because of their sins, but because you've created imaginary enemies that they do not deserve the graces of any sovereign state. That means you're emasculating their rights. You're going against their Bill of Rights. So when Cecily Mbarire does that, she's fully aware that she's going against the Constitution. She's going against the spirit of the 2020 Constitution. Yeah. She's fully aware of these realities. What she's doing is going to bed with oppression, normalizing impunity, and at the end of the day, succumbing too low to take Kenya back to days before the 2010 Constitution. It's an insult to those who fought for the 2010 Constitution.
It's tough. You have really elaborated it. And shifting gears, let's move to something that has really taken into ears of people today. And as we can speak today, we had the missing blogger Nderagui. Yesterday presented himself to the court saying that the family lawyer said that he's safe, and he has been missing for more than 10 days, whereby the DCI boss, Mohammed Amin, said that he was not in their custody. Then how do we relate these issues when it comes to matters of Senator Samson Cherargei for Nandi says that it is staged that he was he abducted himself and he owed the Kenyan people an apology. How do they take that on?
There are double sides to this coin. Two sides to this coin.
Yeah.
And no side carries weight than the other, in the sense that, yes, We are in the new reality that because of political strategies,
Yeah.
or I would say political antics, some would choose the option of self-abduction to create a sense of sympathy, and also to spin the narrative that I am a targeted person, I'm a targeted political party, I'm a targeted political personality. It could be true. But then again, what risk did Ndiangui run to this government? He's not a figure that you can say is a threat to national security. That is the reality.
Yeah.
You cannot say Ndiangui is larger than life when it comes to scuttling ambitions of political personalities in this country. He's a small fish. That's the reality. So when it comes to self-abducting, there could be an ounce of truth to that, because it could have been state-sponsored abduction if indeed he's such a risk to political players, to national security. All right? Let's now go to the government side. All right?
Yeah.
The government runs the burden of bias, in the sense of how much it's grown the affinity for taming dissenting voices. So even any accusation that should not come their way, it is taken at their doorstep because of their bad precedent when it comes to handling dissenting voices.
Yeah.
So the government, I'm saying, chances are high it could be transparent on this. They don't have, their handwriting is not in the place. But because of their history, the ghosts from the past are now coming to haunt them. That Ndiangui might have self-abducted himself out of his own imaginary enemies
So
or
that they can
fears.
marry them.
But also it could have been used by political parties to spin around government's position on walking away from the culture of abductions and forced disappearances. So that's what I'm saying. It could be two sides of the same coin. It could be a self-abduction. It's too much confusion. Because how do you explain someone going to hide and saying it's because I was in fear of this or that, without clearly saying who was the target? Ndiangui has not said he was in fear because of government machinery coming after him. Neither has he said that there's this person who sponsored me to abduct myself. He just says that probably he never felt secure enough, was not sure of imaginary enemies, that's why he went into hiding. So he's a boy who stood in on a ground of confusion, and it's very hard for any judge to clearly tell where the arc of the moral universe should tilt towards when it comes to dispensing justice on such a matter, or even coming to the full sense of what really happened. We're in a state of confusion.
So you mean that there's no transparency there about how the abduction went for missing for 10 days? You remember that it is the family who said that our kin is missing, and then yesterday saying that the truth lawyer is here and safe.
The entire thing is shrouded in opaqueness. That's what I'm saying. The government is not clear on providing evidence around the case. Neither is Ndiangui himself. And so I can just say it's shrouded in an opaque kind of plate.
Yeah.
You can barely discern. We are all confused. Because we've never seen this thing before. Someone going into hiding and coming to claim that no one was after me. I just felt I was paranoid.
Yeah.
It's a new one. And that's why no one can really unpack what truly happened. We are used to abductions happening, and oftentimes from this particular targeted side.
The Subaru boys.
Yeah. So when you get someone abducting himself, and not because of the Subaru threat or anything like that, it's something we are not really fully aware of how we can unpack that.
Yeah.
I hate to be in such a situation, but that's what it is.
You get it from Richard Mwenja, an economist, and you have seen how he has elaborated these matters concerning economy, on how the 1.2 billion shillings could have been spent in a better way for betterment of our country. And he has really shown the way in which the taxpayers' money should be used to ensure that every Kenyan enjoy the tax that he pays to the government. Until next time, then we meet again. This has been Power Talk, and I've been your host, Brian Nyacha.